A pleasant day to everyone. We are Group 2 and we will be expounding the inquiry on philosophical ethics and introduction. Our group is composed of Alessandra Magdales, Jonathan Adajar, Khatlyn Sadiwa, John Anas, Axcel Maranon, Renz Aquino, and Allan Masagca. But first, what exactly is ethics? Let's find out.
The word ethics is from the Greek word ethos, which means way of living. It is a discipline of philosophy concerned with human conduct, specifically the behavior of individuals in society. Ethics analyzes what is morally right or wrong, just or unjust, and investigates the rational explanation for our moral judgments. Speaking of moral judgments, let's learn more about morality and moral standards.
Moral comes from the Latin word mores, meaning customs. Morality is described as the set of norms that govern proper behavior in topics of greater importance. Violation of such might cause disturbance to individual conscience and bring forth social sanction or punishment.
A moral standard is a set of guidelines that we use to determine which activities are ethically acceptable and which are morally inappropriate. Moral standards are specifically address issues that have the potential to substantially damage or benefit humans. Moral standards are only as valid as the line of reasoning used to back or support them, and so cannot be produced or changed by specific bodies of authority.
Moral ideas have a long history dating back to ancient Greece and China. Moral values were crucial in ancient societies because they felt that a firm understanding of right and wrong was required for success. Ancient Greek philosophers like Aristotle began researching moral principles in order to understand what virtue was. Philosophers such as John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Immanuel Kant later examined moral concepts.
Ethics and morality are sometimes interchanged with one another, but they are two completely different things. What are their differences?
Morality can be thought of as something that's personal and subjective. In other words, your morality is based on your own beliefs, whereas ethics is more on the objective side, and the standard of good and bad, distinguished by a certain community or social setting.
For example, adultery may be considered sinful by your local community, and you may agree. However, if your local society has no strong feelings about adultery but you believe it is immoral on a person level, the distinction can be valuable. Your morals would be in conflict with your community's ethics under these definitions. In common speech, however, we frequently use the phrases moral and immoral when discussing matters such as adultery, regardless of whether the discussion is personal or societal. This proves that morality is ultimately a personal compass of right and wrong.
In short, ethics are accepted by the entire society or community, but morals are not. People have their own morals that may or may not be in sync with society's ethics. Moreover, ethics are dependent on others or an external source for definition. They are normally consistent within a setting, but can vary between situations. Moral are usually consistent, but can alter if a person's beliefs change over time.
Needless to say, ethics is concerned with the moral decision-making process, or more particularly, how we arrive at moral decisions. Ethics isn't just about theoretical understanding. It's also about putting that knowledge into practice in our daily lives. This is where critical thinking comes into play.
Critical thinking is important in ethics since it is the process through which we judge if something is right or wrong for ourselves. Critical thinking is a type of analysis that involves determining whether something is true or false, recognizing the unknown, and so on. A person who follows the path of a critical thinker develops a mental review process that aids in determining their ethical standards.
Simply put, critical thinking is complex thinking, evaluating what we hear and read, finding reasons to confirm or reject something else, recognizing fallacious reasoning and fallacies. Because of this, it allows for a more effective moral decision-making process. It entails skepticism and a variety of viewpoints. If we had to sum up everything above in a single sentence, we might come up with an exploration process.
As with critical thinking, there are also moral dilemmas that are present and inevitable. Dilemma comes from the Latin from Greek word dilemma, di meaning twice, and lemma meaning premise. The Cambridge Dictionary defines dilemmas as a situation in which a choice has to be made between possibilities that will all have results you do not want. The following are the essential characteristics of a moral dilemma, such as the agent must perform each of two or more actions. The agent can perform each of the actions, but the agent cannot perform both or all of the actions. As a result of this one, the agent appears doomed to moral failure. No matter what she tries, she will make a mistake or fail to do something that she ought to do.
A classic example of a moral dilemma is the trolley problem. The dilemma goes like this. You find yourself at a lever. A runaway trolley approaches 5 people who are tied to a set of tracks. Pulling the lever will divert the trolley to a different set of tracks, where only one person is tied down. Do you pull the lever? Would you kill one person to save 5?
A truly puzzling dilemma, right? Even if you choose either of the two options, to pull or not to pull the lever, death is unavoidable. The only difference between the choices is the amount of people who will die. The trolley problem is a question of human morality, and an example of a philosophical view called conceptualism. This view says that morality is defined by the consequences of an action, and that the consequences are all that matter.
Moral dilemmas, otherwise known as ethical dilemmas, can be solved through a process that involves crucial steps.
The first step in solving a moral dilemma is to examine the act in relation to the agent. This means assessing the agent and the facts surrounding the act. We can do this by stating the exact problem. For example, there's something about this decision that makes me uncomfortable. Or like, do I have a conflict of interest? Another important action to consider is to check the facts. Many problems disappear upon closer examination of the situation, while others change radically. For example, persons involve laws, professional codes, other practical constraints. Lastly, identifying relevant factors, whether external or internal, is also a must.
The second step is to determine the possible consequences of the act. The principle of consequentialism suggests that one must weigh the consequences of a human act to determine whether it is a moral or immoral. When developing a list of possible consequences, we must be imaginative as much as possible. This way, we may be able to think of a better way out of the particular moral dilemma.
The third step is to identify the intention of the act, whether the intention is good or bad. Ask yourself the simple question, what is my true intention in making this decision? However, we must always keep in mind that bad intentions are immoral. We must always choose to do the good and stick by good intentions.
The fourth step in solving a moral dilemma is to decide in accordance with divine and natural law which govern moral life. If you are a religious person, the beliefs that you can base your morality on should come natural to you. If not, abiding by the law and the ethics practiced in your community should help you during a moral dilemma. And of course, the last and ultimate step in solving a moral dilemma is to make a choice based on the steps you have taken in order to make the best possible decision.
In conclusion, ethics is a branch of philosophy that involves a system of moral principles and standards which define what is good or bad, right or wrong for individuals and society. Conversely, morality is the set of principles guiding us to evaluate what is right or wrong, and it builds personal character, reasonable behavior, and choices of person, as well as help people to justify decisions, goals, and actions all throughout their life. The difference between these two is that ethics are the rules of conduct recognized in respect to a particular class of human actions or a particular group or culture. On the other hand, morality or morals are the principles or habits with respect to right or wrong conduct. While morals also prescribes do's and don'ts, morality is ultimately a personal compass of right and wrong. For example, a person strictly following ethical principles may not have any morals at all. Likewise, one could violate ethical principles within a given system of rules in order to maintain moral integrity. However, a moral person, although perhaps bound by a higher covenant, may choose to follow a code of ethics as it would apply to a system. Finally, ethics are governed by professional and legal guidelines within a particular time and place, and morality transcends cultural norms.
That concludes our presentation for today. We hope you learned something new and enjoy it while doing so. And thank you for listening.